It's extremely common for people such as you and me to make excuses for our lack of success. We may say that we don't have enough money for all of the resources that we need to be successful, or maybe it's that we don't have enough time to spend to be successful, or maybe it's that we didn't have a mentor in our lives that could guide us. Maybe we're just not smart enough. Whatever it is, these are, at the end of the day, all simply excuses. And really, these excuses, they can be comforting in their own way. They keep us from experiencing failure or recognizing failure. And the end result is to justify to the world and ourselves why we're not doing better. Welcome back to the Do More podcast. My name is Ben from benribble.com Coaching, where we focus on 3 foundational pillars in our coaching model, and that's leadership, productivity, and organization. And friends, I'm excited to invite you to test out our coaching program that we call the Laser Focused Life. And you can do that by jumping over to laserfocused.life in order to sign up for a free 30-minute discovery coaching session with me as your coach. And in this coaching session, we're going to really just kind of get to know one another. I'm going to ask you some questions, but mainly I'm going to hear what you are desiring, what kind of goals you have, what kind of dreams you have. And really, at the end of this, our goal here is, one, for you to walk away with some way that even that 30-minute discovery session has improved your life and your success. And number 2, it's to help us evaluate our fit on whether or not an ongoing coaching program between you and I would be a good idea. So again, you can jump over to laserfocused.life. That's laserfocused.life. In order to sign up for that free 30-minute coaching session. And then on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to invite you to jump over to podinbox.com/do-more so that you can leave your voice note for me. You can respond to questions that are asked during the podcast. You can ask me questions during the podcast, or really say anything, even if it's just a quick shout out to tell me where you are listening from. I would greatly appreciate that. Again, that you can find at podinbox.com/do-more. All right, let's jump back into today's podcast content, where we are talking about excuses. A lot of us have excuses for our success, and friends, that is debilitating, and that is not something that we can sit back and rely upon. So many of us have a series of excuses that really we can just pull out of the hat at a moment's notice. At any time, we can just say, hey, here's this excuse that I can plug into this situation. And there's always one that seems to fit the bill perfectly, right? And it's done largely to protect ourselves, really, and to justify our current circumstances. We do that for a reason. We are protecting ourselves. And so today, I'm going to identify 6 of those common excuses that each of us have. And in doing so, in identifying these, I'm going to ask you to try to recognize them in your life as well, and then replace them when you feel that urge to pull this or these excuses out at any given time, that maybe instead you will find a way to replace this excuse. So are any of these excuses holding you back from success? Let's jump right in with number 1. And this one is probably one of the most commonly used. I don't know how. The excuse, I don't know how. It's a common excuse, and it gives you permission to not even try, right? You can use this excuse. I don't even know how to do this. How would I even start? Where would I begin? And you can be done with it. But friends, I'm going to ask you, don't do that. This is an excuse, and it doesn't hold water. At no time in the history of mankind has there been so much information available to you at your fingertips, right? We have more information in our pocket today than we have ever had access to in the history of the world, in our pocket, at our fingertips. So maybe it's you want to start a charity. Well, guess what? There are hundreds of books on this subject, ebooks. There are tons and tons of blogs on how to do this. There's the technical know-how. There's the marketing of it. There's all of these different things, all of these different topics that you can find with a simple search. Maybe it's that you want to lose 100 pounds. Guess what? Again, there are thousands and thousands of resources available to you. And a couple of tips on beyond just going to Google is, number one, maybe you need to find someone who could be a mentor to you. Or, and not that this is a plug to my coaching program, but laserfocus.life, right? You find a mentor, find a coach, someone who can teach you how to do what you want to do. That can keep you on track, that can give you pointers, help you identify where you're struggling, and help you identify where your strengths are. Right? Another effective option is to simply try and then adjust your approach based on your results. So if at first you fail, try again, right? This is a failure model. And failure, when it's looked at like that, as a stepping stone, as a way to move forward, failure is a good thing, and a great thing even, right? And this excuse, I don't know how. I always tell people that if you add the word yet at the end of that, then you have changed this excuse into something so much more powerful. I don't know how yet. Now it's not an excuse. Now it's a reason for you to get out there and learn how to do this. All right. Common excuse number 2. I'm afraid. This is perhaps the most socially acceptable answer. Who, in their past, hasn't at some point been afraid to do something? But there is very little to legitimately fear in our modern times, right? A fear of darkness. Is that a legitimate fear? Not really, because we have so much light in our world. In most circumstances, you're not in danger of being eaten by a lion or falling off of a cliff or any of those kinds of things, right? Those would be legitimate fears if we had to live with those in our everyday life. But in our everyday life, we don't have those kinds of fears. Most of the fears that we have today are not life and death, but they're more socially based, and they have no real essentially physical consequences. I don't want to undermine the fact that you feel these fears in yourself. You definitely feel the fear and the anxiety of being unsuccessful or failing at something, but they don't have physical consequences. And if you can train your brain to be more robust and maybe to get a little bit thicker skin, then they have no consequences that are going to affect your success. And that's really what we're after here. So being afraid isn't really a valid excuse 99% of the time. Let's just say that, okay? I'm afraid, yes, I'm afraid, but it's time to conquer my fear. Right? So one of the things that we can do in this regard is we can kind of think of it as a scale. On one side you have fear, and on the other side you have success. So if your fear is weighing you down, then you can't have success, right? So which do you prefer more, or which do you desire more, fear or success, right? Would you rather be successful or protect your ego? Right? Sometimes you have to, you just kind of have to let it go, and you have to step out in faith. And if you fail, then again, use it as a learning opportunity. Use it as a stepping stone. And number 3, we kind of talked about this one earlier, briefly we spoke on it. I don't have enough time. Do you really believe this? Nearly all of us waste time on activities that provide no real substantial value. Do you watch TV? Do you binge watch? Do you internet surf? Do you get sucked into social media? It's easy to do. And those things can suck your time dry. And there's all kinds of other time wasters out there. But the thing is, this is simply an excuse. I don't have time. Guess what? We are all given the same amount of time. It's not how much time we have, it's how we use the time that we have. You know in your heart that you could make the time for something that is truly important to you. So I read a book by Hiram Smith at one point, and this really stuck out at me. He said, for every time that you say, I don't have time, really what you're doing is saying whatever that other task is that you're saying I don't have time for, you're saying that that's not important to me. Something else is more important to me. Maybe it's watching your TV. Maybe it's surfing the internet. Or maybe it's spending time with your family, which is legitimate. But when you tell somebody or you turn down some task or something, anything that could lead you closer to success by saying, I don't have time, then you are essentially saying that does not really hold any value to me. So think about that the next time that you think, I don't have enough time. Is the thing that you are not doing more valuable to you than the thing that you are doing? Excuse number 4. I don't have enough money. And friends, this is another common excuse, but there is usually a way to work around a lack of financial resources. For example, if you'd like to learn to play the piano, but you can't afford a piano, well, guess what? There are some resources. Here are some examples. You can find a free piano on Craigslist or on a community sharing forum or something of that nature. You could pick up an inexpensive digital piano at a pawn shop, right? There are a lot of times there are local churches or schools or something like that that would allow you to use their piano to practice. Or if you keep your eyes open, sometimes these local churches or schools are actually giving away pianos. Keep an eye on the white pages in the sales sections or to give away sections, because people are oftentimes giving away pianos. They just want them out of their house, right? How about a local college? Sometimes they have a piano that you can use. So the point is not go find a piano, right? But the point is, if you have a desire to do something, don't use the fact that you don't have enough money as an excuse, because there are alternatives. You might have to be creative, but there are alternatives to help you get around that. Now, in business and success, the idea is that as you grow, you will be able to fund the things that you need in order to continue to grow. And so it's kind of a snowball effect, right? Let's think of this piano example. For instance, let's say that that you want to learn to play the piano. So you go down to the local church and play their piano for a few hours per week. Well, let's say then that the local funeral director is needing someone to play the piano for funerals. And guess what? Now this is a paid gig. So now you start making money playing the piano, and now you can buy your own piano at your home. And then you continue to practice and practice and practice, and you get better. And now you're playing weddings and funerals and special events, and you're making more money and becoming more successful. And then you're shooting videos for YouTube, or you're shooting videos for TikTok or Facebook, and growing your following and booking more events. And you see where I'm going with this. You started with no money, but you didn't let that become an excuse. You did not let that hinder your success. And friends, that is the same situation. It's the same thing for each of us. If we have a desire, we can find an alternative to make it work without the money. So never let the money be an excuse to not be successful. Number 5, it's too late for me. I'm too old. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. A person climbed Mount Everest in his 80s. Was it too late for him? People have gone back to medical school in their 60s. Was it too late for them? What would you like to do? It's not too late for you. Getting a late start might be less convenient and maybe even more challenging, but there's nothing wrong with that. It means that you'll only take on the challenges that are really important to you. And that could be a good thing. And let's be fair here. There are a few things that require an earlier start than others. I mean, you're likely not going to be playing in the NBA if you take up basketball in your 30s, right? But you could be a coach or work in the front office or work on the medical staff for the NBA. So it's not too late. It's never too late. And excuse number 6. And this one, friends, I hear so often. And it breaks my heart that this is the excuse that people are going to because they truly believe this. It's too hard. Success, whatever my definition is too hard. Some endeavors are certainly more competitive than others. That's a given. But claiming that something is just too hard is it's simply another way of admitting that you're afraid, of saying that you can't do it and you don't want to put the effort in. The truth is that people with limited resources and talent can still be extremely successful. Absolutely. When we tend to imagine the competition is much tougher than it really is. The average person doesn't have a lot of control over himself or herself. They're not truly committed. Those with motivation and stamina are really the ones who succeed. Friends, I'm going to tell you today that the biggest and the most successful character trait is grit, stick-to-itness, right? Having a goal, working on it until you achieve that goal. Being consistent in the work that you're doing and sticking with it. You know the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? You cannot walk into the world and say today, I'm going to be successful, and then expect tomorrow to be successful. That's not how it works. You have to work for it. And if you can recognize that up front and stay consistent and stay in it for the long haul, then you are more likely to succeed. Those with motivation and stamina, that's the key there. Motivation and stamina are really the ones who succeed. And people who are successful on a regular basis tend to have the fewest excuses. I mean, how could it be any other way? Those with excuses are able to justify not taking action. However, no action equals no results, so there's that. So, friends, put aside your excuses and go after what you really, truly want. And I guarantee you 100% that you will be glad that you did. So, friends, do you recognize yourself in any of these 6 excuses, these 6 common excuses for limiting your success? I don't know how. I'm afraid. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. It's too late for me. Or it's too hard. Well, you're not alone. There are so many people out there that have these excuses, or what we like to call these limiting beliefs. And I'm going to encourage you that if you connect with any of these people, especially on these limiting beliefs, then you absolutely have no reason not to jump over to laserfocused.life and fill out that form so that you can schedule your free 30-minute discovery coaching session with me. Because we're going to identify some of those limiting beliefs, and we're going to work toward removing those beliefs in your life and removing those excuses so that you can be the most successful version of you. Again, jump over to laserfocused.life to sign up for that free 30-minute discovery coaching session. And then, friends, I'm going to ask you as well to respond to this prompt today at podinbox.com/do-more. podinbox.com/do-more. What is your number one excuse or your number one limiting belief? Leave that for me as a voice message. I would love to hear from you. Friends, that brings us to the end of today's podcast. I thank you so much for hanging out with me to the end. As always, don't forget to make today a great day.